Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. I think it was such a tough week from the perspective of this course, but for me, for sure. Let me know if you can hear me, if the connection is good enough, because it looks like I have some internet issues today, but I hope everything would work now. So actually today I'm planning to discuss with you a bit about task number 8, what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to know about the AWS resources we should use in this one. We will take a look at the parts of this task in which I succeed. Unfortunately, it's not much, but still. Okay, so I suppose let's get started. So my name is still Anton Kostikov, and I'm here to try to help you to understand what AWS is and how can we use it from a perspective of our business tasks. This module is called connection to RDS or implementation of RDS. So let's briefly discuss on what RDS is once again. So actually RDS is a relational database, and AWS have this resource as a service. So we don't need to provision any virtual machines. We don't need to maintain these machines, don't need to run OS patches and care about the security. Okay, we should care about security, but not that much as we should whenever we're using just, for example, EC2 instance and run the database or write on it. So in this task, we should run the RDS service on the Postgres engine, if I remember it correctly. Let's maybe just take a look at how it looks like, but I think actually I just can't bet that all of you succeed with this one, but still. Let's go to the AWS console and let's take a look at what RDS is. I think I don't have one now because my free tier account is already expired. So I managed to run the just EC2 instance with the database installed on it. So just to run the RDS, we should just go ahead and click the create database, go to the PostgreSQL, and we will be prompted to run to manage any configurations. So yeah, let it be standard create. Okay, just bear with me. I will just move this screen to another one to take a look if I have any questions. Okay, so now I just choose the Postgres. I'm prompted to run to choose the version I need. Support the multi-AZ-DB cluster. So this checkbox is located in here in case we have, let's say, first of all, enough money. And we can actually, we will take a look at it a bit further, but still, but I'll try to explain it briefly right now. So we have an option to run replicated the replica of another database in the another AZ of another region. And in this case, RDS have an option. So whenever the main node would go in the failure state or something would happen with this one, so RDS would automatically redirect all the traffic and all the queries to this database to the node at the another AZ. and it's actually helps us to make the quite redundant infrastructure for our databases, because whenever you're running at the just at the EC2 instance as an entry point, if you don't have any load balancers or something like this, so as an entry point would be just IP address of the EC2 instance with which you would reach your database. And if you want to make any kind of a replication or master replication, um, you just need to care about it. But in case of RDS, we would take a look and at the entry point or at the IP address, or let's say in this case, kind of load balancer, which would be an entry point for our application to reach the database. And all of the other stuff would be managed by AWS. So now let's just go ahead and choose the free tier. So in your case, whenever you're choosing the free tier, you would be provided with the 750 hours of the RDS per month for the first 12 months of your account. But we'll take a look a bit later, I think. So there is an option just to create this RDS inside in our VPC, to not make it accessible from the internet, which is actually best practice. So just do not shine your ports to the internet, because it would be quite easy to access your database. So if someone want to get something from it or just remove it, any hackers or someone like this with not much appropriate ideas about your database, so would do actually just anything if you are exposing your database ports to the internet. Choosing a name, it would be self-managed credentials. So yeah, and then another good benefit of the RDS is but you can manage the access to the RDS with your IAM users or IAM roles. So you would just not, if we are talking about the communication between your RDS and your resources inside the AWS, it would be much easier, because you don't need to store somewhere your passwords or something like this. You would just create the role, which is granting the access for one resource to access your RDS. Now we are prompted for the password. Oh, how to generate it? Okay, let's do like this. I think no, it's not a good idea. At least we could try maybe just to access this instance right here with you. Let's make something hard just to remember this one. Like this. Okay, hope it's enough. So as for configuration, as for free tier, it's recommended to use T3 micro or T2 micro in any cases. So just the number after the T just signs the version of this instance, let's say. So not long time ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, the usual one was T2 instance. But now we upgraded something and they just create the T3 instances. So if you see the T3 micro, that would be actually good, and it would work for your free tier account. So you would not pay for this one just any cent. Include previous generation classes. Okay, we choose this one, boostable classes. Now we need to choose the storage. Actually, 20 gigabytes would be enough for me. So and here, if we choose connect to an EC2 instance, we would be able to choose the instance which should be connected to this database, or which should use connections to this database. And we will be prompted to create a special role for this instance to make connections between the EC2 instance and this database a bit easier. But we will skip this step for now, because I would try to connect to this instance from my local PC. Now we're supposed to choose the VPC. VPC is actually in our virtual private network. So the network in which we have in our subnets and our roles and etc. So right now we would leave it as default, and we would choose we would choose the checkbox with yes on the public access. And what would it do? Actually, it would create it would make in our database accessible from the internet. It's and as I said, it's not the best practice, but still for now that's pretty enough for me. But keep in mind, whenever you're choosing the public access, you would be charged for about $3 per month for the public IP address. Recently, AWS added the price for the IP addresses, even for the free tier. So in this case, if you're choosing the yes, you would be provided with the global IP address, and you would be charged for this one, $3 per month. Keep it in mind. Actually, you have an option to set it to no, and later place your Lambda inside your VPC. So just make it accessible from your VPC locally from your virtual network, and it would solve the problem. You would not be charged, but it's quite an extra steps. And I think for this one, we would be just enough to make it the public access for the time before someone checked in our task. So we choose existing security group. So under security group, we are understanding the policies which are managing the connection to in our RTS. Maybe let's take a look at, what the security groups is. So somewhere in here should be security groups, and the one I'm working with now is new RDS. And what does it have? So actually, there is just two rules. First one is regarding PostgreSQL. So we are just enabling all the connections to and from RDS. So here we can see the inbound rules. And okay, at the outbound rules, sure, there is nothing because our database don't need any external connections for itself. It's just waiting for connections to it. And there's the second one for the SSH. That's because, as I said, I just created the instance, EC2 instance to run this database. So it's a bit cheaper, maybe twice cheaper when just running the RDS because I don't have the free tier account anymore. So now we are just choosing new RDS. We don't have any preferences about the availability zones, certification of the. Unfortunately, I can't say much about this one, but I just choose this. Oh yeah, it was just default, so that's why. The port for the connection. You can actually save this one, but sometimes for the better security, you may want to change it to some custom one. Just not to make it that obvious, but whenever someone is sniffing any open ports in the internet, so we're just trying to find, okay, so I want to hack some, let's say, PostgreSQL database. So I would try to search for the default PostgreSQL port, and it's 5432. This is how it works. So if you change it to something else, so something available for you, that would be good, but it's not necessary actually if you have strong securities enough. Because as you can see at the security group, there is a table which is okay. Yeah, here we go. There is source, and it just points to 0000/0, and actually that means that everyone can connect to my database. And maybe the better practice is if you have the static IP address from your internet provider, you can just choose not the custom, but just my IP. So in this case, AWS would provide exactly your IP address. So, and only from this IP address, access to your database would be allowed. But the problem is what sometimes the internet providers changing this IP address. So it may be not your personal IP address, so the IP address of a router which is staying on your house, let's say, and someone else may use this IP address, and sometimes it may choose because they are spreading these IP addresses via the DHCP protocol. So I would just leave it as it is. Yeah, it's not secure, not the best practice, and actually it should be, I think, restricted, but still. Tags, if you need any tags. So for tags, I'm not sure if it's in the scope of this course, but you can just leave any tags to make your resources being searched much easier. So for example, you may have the production, development, and stage and QA environments, and just to separate all of your resources and make it much more easier to navigate for your resources. You may want to create any kind of tags. For my database, it would be password authentication, just this one. And as I said, the RDS provide the IAM authentication for now database. Monitoring. Can't say much about this one, so I would just turn it off because I'm afraid it would take much more money. Additional configuration, initial database name, parameter group. One more advantage of the RDS over the just instance with the database installed is that RDS provides you with an option to create the backups of your database. And it's as easy as just click a few buttons, or in case if you're using CDK or maybe Terraform or just any provisioning or just any tool which is supposed to use to or just any tool which is created to provision the infrastructure and manage it. So you may just manage all of your backup stuff inside your code. You just don't need to create to do it manually on your EC2 instance. This is all about the backup and replication, encryption. Don't know about this that much. About maintenance. So as I said, the RDS is managed resource. So what does it mean? So we can just create the RDS in case we need any kind of database, and that's it. So any security patches or any maintenance inside in our instance would be a headache of the AWS, but not in ours. What is left? We should just create the kind of maintenance window. So we may say, okay, AWS, if you want to run any patches, it would be not crucial for us because whenever AWS making any patches, we would be provided with the replica of our database, and it would be accessible anyway. But still, for some reason, we may choose the time in which we want the AWS to run any service stuff on the instance which is located below in our database, which we're not managing, but AWS managing it for us. And then at the end of this page, we would get the estimated monthly cost. In case you don't have a free tier account, you would be charged this much for your instance. And let's say for now, it's 3 times more than just running the EC2 instance and installing the RDS right on it. But in case of running RDS, we have so many advantages. So if we are roughly would count it, yeah, it would actually be 3 times. But if we are talking about the replication and backups and so on, I think sometimes the RDS may be even cheaper for you when just run the simple EC2 instance and install the database right on it. So actually, right now on my project, we are still struggling because we don't have enough money just to buy the RDS, and we're supposed to run on just 2 instances. But yeah, it spends so many time to maintain these instances because we are responsible for the OS for the security patches, and which is not the good practice to run on the business days. So usually running on the weekend, so engineer would be rewarded somehow for this work. So maybe in the end, it would be easier just to run the RDS, but still. Yeah, so RDS is such a good option if you have enough money, and if you can, and if you want just running quite durable infrastructure from the perspective of the database. So now, if I go ahead and click, okay, I missed the password. Bear with me for a second. Okay, like this. Here we go. Create database. Now this database would be provisioned and created for me. So, and as I said, under this database would be just T3 micro instance in this case. So just a simple virtual machine. I think it may take some time to create this one. Okay, I think for now we can just take a look at the task itself. So in this task, we are supposed to create a Lambda function, which is hosting the card application, which should talk with the RDS we have just created. To make it work, you have to open or clone this repository and make all the necessary changes to make this application able to talk to your database. Let me try to show you all the changes I've made to make it possible. But in my case, I just stopped at the creating the connection to my database, and actually that's it. Because whenever I try to go any further, I faced the issues with my front end application have some different type of data which it waits for to be as an input when my card application. And since I don't have absolutely any experience in the TypeScript or any other or any frameworks for this one, especially Nest in this case, it was a pain for me. I spent plenty of nights trying to do it. Actually, sometimes it was quite fun when something is supposed to work, but usually it was just a pain. So I spent so many time learning something I hope I would not touch anymore. So let's try to take a look at the changes. So at the app module.ts, we need to create the module itself. So we need to, where is it? We need to import this library, or how it says, package in this case, and try to implement the connection to the database inside of this code. And also we would need to create the entities for this one, because if I understood it correctly, so these entities would be responsible to provide the data to the database in the appropriate way. So to make it understandable for in our Postgres database. Let's take a look at this entities, card entity, card item entity, and so on. I'm not sure if I made it correctly. I just made it with help of the internet, but yeah, that's it. I will try to show you how it works from my end, but actually, and unfortunately, it's not much. Also, from the text of the task, we should create the scripts to create the tables for our database, and also we need to fill all of this data, create the scripts to fill in our database with all of this data. Now let's take a look at the script, at the CDK itself. So what are we doing here? First of all, we are uploading the .env file just to provide to our Lambda function, provide our Lambda function with the environments. We need to make the connection to in our database. It would be host, port, username, password for your database, and database name, because creating the database, it's unlikely actually, not unlikely, but this is where it's different with the DynamoDB. So in case of DynamoDB, we just had a table. We just had a table which we can populate with the data we want, and then we can use this data. But in this case, we have the database, which is potentially can have a multiple of databases, and every of these databases may have multiple tables with pretty big amount of data. So in this case, we should specify the database name. So it's just Postgres, but inside of this Postgres, we may have plenty of databases. So you're supposed to create one for your task. And from in this case, I managed. It's not necessary to create the API gateway, so it's just a Lambda function which accepts the connections right through the right through its URL. Actually, that's it. And to build this application, I used the nest build command, which just created a bunch of files. And from them, I managed to use this one, main lambda.js. And if I understood it correctly, this application, this part of application just imports all the necessary parts from my source code or something like this, and just running. We will take a look at how it's running a bit later. There is a questions: which client script in the card should work and should be checked for code review. We'll talk about it a bit later, actually. So we would discuss with you, and I would also mention it inside, mention it in our Discord channel. So I would tell all of you. So what would be the evaluation criteria for this task? Need to use basic authentication again? No, I tried to make it work, but unfortunately, I failed. So I think we would leave it out of scope of this task. And as I said, we will discuss it a bit later, and we will talk about the evaluation criteria for this task. So this is just a function. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. So this is just a function, and let's first maybe finish with the RDS. So once it created, we will be provided with the endpoint. And actually, this is the endpoint which you can use to make the connections to your database. Let's take a look at how it looks like. Let me open my terminal like this, and I already installed the PGCLI in here. Oh, let's take a look at how this command works. PGCLI. Yeah, here we go. But in this, or will it be the same? Let's take a look. CHT 8K. Yeah, looks like it's the same. So whenever I recreate it, even whenever I recreated my RDS, the URL is still the same. I prompted to enter my password. Yep, and here we go. Right now we are inside our database. It should be clean. Right now, yeah, there's just default databases. So we are free to create our new one and provide the name of our freshly created database inside the environment variables of our Lambda function, and actually it should work. To populate this one, you can, as I said, just create this script. So, for example, create cart items. This one would create three tables, two tables inside my database. But actually, right now it's default one, I guess. Yeah, it's just PG default. But still, right now inside my database, I think I have these two tables right now. Yeah, here we go. Here you can see it. So it's just the cards and card items, as I said in my scripts. So, but right now, just to take a look at how it all works, what can they do? Mm, uh, let's take a look at my EC2 instance. Is it stopped or not? Yeah, it stopped, unfortunately. Okay, let's run it back. Start an instance. Now we will try to take a look at on what this Lambda function should do to make sure we understood the idea of this task. It will take a while. Mm, mhm. Yeah, now the only thing we have left to discuss. Mm, okay, yeah, it looks like provisioned and running. So let me just change the IP address of my, oh, actually it's in the environments, but there is plenty of secrets in my environments. So let it just be in here like this. I think it should be string. Yeah. And I think I supposed to also maybe remove this one. Would it be enough? Should be unpin kill. Sure, npm run build. And then it's npm run deploy. That would be enough to deploy my Lambda function with the updated host, because whenever I stop in my instance and running it once again, over time I have the different IP addresses because I don't have the elastic IP one. And in case I would run it, I would be charged a bit more, but yeah, it would be the static IP, which would be mine. For the time, I would not say, okay, release this IP address. So let's take a look at the Lambda functions. No, it's still not done. Okay. While we are waiting, let's try to find my URL for my application. Should be this one. Okay, yeah, here we go. What about Lambda function? Yeah, it looks like it's done. So let's choose the card API Lambda function, and let's take a look. Oh, okay, yeah, it's more. Fair enough. Let's go to the monitoring and CloudWatch logs. Let's make sure we don't have any logs right now, or if we have any, it's old enough. Yeah, for some reason it just started, but I think it was kind of initiation. Okay, yeah, actually, whenever I opened my uh, front page of my front end, I guess it already created the request to my Lambda function. And let's take a look at the response. So as you can see, there's plenty of logs, which is created a few minutes ago. Actually, there is 4 hours difference between my time and time in the logs. So yeah, so my Lambda function have been just invoked. And as you can see, there is a bunch of logs, and at all of them, she's saying, okay, I just made the connection and to your database and created all the necessary endpoints for your application. But now if I would just resume this one to make logs appear whenever anything is whenever this Lambda function would be triggered, let's take a look at what would happen if I just click on this one. Yeah, it would fail. It would fail. Unfortunately, we may take a look at the logs on what's actually wrong. But actually, what I'm trying to show you is may take a while. So whenever our Lambda function would be invoked next time, there would not be any, let's say, preparation steps or initial steps. Why did it happen? So whenever we are creating the Lambda function and then we are deploying this Lambda function and running this Lambda function, all the time AWS allocating the necessary resources to run this Lambda function. And what we can see here, yeah, let's take a look maybe at the node code, which is provided from my colleague. Maybe it would be more familiar for you. So oh, not this one, but yeah, actually it should be, where is it? Should dist. Um, it should be dist, I guess. Main Lambda function. So yeah, and whenever we are running this Lambda function, at the first step, we are initiating the, let's say, environment variable, which is kind of warm start for our Lambda function. So while the resources for our Lambda function is provisioned, but unfortunately, it's not a constant value. So AWS may erase in our environment in any time we want. But in this case, whenever we are provided this environment for our Lambda function, and we just instantiated the connection to our database, it would leave for a while. And while it's leaving, we don't need to create and instantiate this connection once again. So if we are running in our Lambda function in not with such a small period of time between the invocations, the preparation steps would not be applied because they already have been applied at the first, or let's say initial start for this particular environment. But actually, this environment is quite a thermal idea. So we can see it, we can manage it. So we are just provided with this environment from the AWS, and they can manage it as we want, unfortunately, or maybe likely, because if we supposed to make any changes to in our database, and let's say the connection would still exist, but from the perspective of in our Lambda function, it may not know that the connection credentials or the host maybe changed, maybe already changed. It would not know about it, and it would try to connect to the with the old data, which is provided with the initial start. I hope. Okay, where is wait? Oh no, no questions. Sorry. Um, so I tried to explain it as I can. If you still have any questions, please feel free to ask. Or if you don't have it right now, but you may have any in the future, so you may always ask them inside the Discord channel. And I think that's it from the perspective of the Lambda functions and RDS. Yeah, that's just Lambda function, which is hosting the application and making the in the best case scenario, or if you manage to make it application up and running, so it would just create the connections to the RTS, and that's it. And question. Have you used API Gateway in your CDK store? How did you get an endpoint link? If not, I'm using the IP Gateway to get endpoints. It's a mistake. Actually, it's not a mistake, but to make your Lambda function accessible as it is, so you may just create the add function URL, specifying your Lambda function, and just there is a parameter for there is not a parameter, it's method for this instance of the class, which is make it able to just connect to your Lambda function without any API gateway. So I think it's not a mistake, because we are actually not provided with enough information to make decisions. So if your Lambda function is up and running, I think that's pretty enough. Okay, I think now it's time to talk about the evaluation criteria. Let's take a look at on what do we have inside the task. Oh, it's optional tasks. Where is the main? Okay. Task 8.1 is implemented, 8.2 is implemented, 8.3 is implemented, is provided, and cards data is stored in database. Let's start from the first one. So we are just supposed to run the AWS Lambda function, and inside of this Lambda function should be the code from the repository which we are provided with. I think that would be enough. Maybe just to share the CloudWatch logs. There's so much of them, but I think lots of them are would be not the case for you, because I already created the. Okay, yeah, it's order, and there is profile card here. It would be for you. Maybe that would be enough, just to share the CloudWatch logs with kind of um, this kind of final resolution from the application, which is saying Nest application successfully started. I think that would be enough to make sure that you manage to run the cart application inside of your Lambda function. And also, I think we can try to check. We can try to check the accessibility of your Lambda function or your API gateway, whatever you have, with the curl command. Let's take a look. Yeah, looks like it have just an endpoint with any additional links. So just Lambda function is saying status code okay. Let's try. What do we have? Was at the app controller. Yeah, it's just a ping. Yeah, it's supposed to work, I think. Post for the application. Let's try this one. Let's take a look at what will it return. API profile. Okay, everything's good. And it looks like for my profile, there is nothing to share. Yeah, I think so. I think that providing the link to the API gateway or to the Lambda function itself would be sufficient enough to make sure your application is up and running. Let's move on to the second one. Where is it? Okay, 8.2. Use your AWS console to create a DS. Okay, how could we make sure that your database is created? Would it be enough just to share the links? I think no. But sharing the credentials sounds like quite weird idea to connect to your database. Okay, in this case, let's just share the screenshot of our RTS page inside the AWS console. I think it would be enough just to share where everything is up and running. So there's just class, just the region, nothing is special, nothing personal, and looks like nothing sensitive. Yeah, let's just do it like this. So please share with your pull request the screenshot of your database created inside the AWS console. I think that would be enough to make sure you succeed with the creation. And you should also provide the scripts to fill this database. Need to be quite easy for you, I guess. So so I think the scripts just to make the card items would be enough, and to populate your tables with some kind of data. So 1, 2, or maybe 3 positions would be enough. Okay, so it would be just SQL scripts, SQL queries, which you would store inside your repository. Okay, and the last one, update source code in the application to use Postgres instead of memory storage. In this case, I think it would be enough just to make sure that you understood what type ORM is, or any other libraries. Integrate with RDS. Let's skip this one. So we would actually, there isn't integration, but from my end, it's just integration just to make the connection. But I'm struggling to get any information from the RDS. It just connects to it. Looks like successfully, and that's it. So let's take a look at my on what my Lambda function is saying, because as I remember, there were a string which is saying, "Okay, I successfully connected to your database." Dependency initialized. Yeah, here we go. Type ORM. Oh, it's just dependency initialized once again. Is there anything in this application saying whenever the database connection is initiated? Duty model, dependencies once again, dependencies, blah blah, app controller. Card controller. I think it's all about the paths to for my application. Okay. So let's leave it as it is. So if you are if you just read about the type ORM and manage to make all of this stuff about the module and about the entities, I think that would be enough. So just provide all of this data inside your pull request, and that would be enough to understand that, okay, for somehow, if you would be the AWS engineer, which is also making something inside the Node.js or TypeScript or anything else, so you are understood what happening inside of this one. I encourage you not to evaluate much strictly the tasks from your fellow students. Just make sure that everything is in place. So type ORM library is used, and just something we have inside the module. And actually, I suggest you maybe to discuss with someone you are checking the tasks, just to make sure he just understood what it is and why do we need it, why should we use it inside in our application. So actually, it's just to make our application to make it easier to connect to our database, if I understood correctly. And what else? it would be 8.3, I guess. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. It's 8.3. Yeah, 8.3. So we need to integrate. Mm, okay, I will try to adjust the wording, just not to think about it right now. And I will provide you information inside the Discord channel about this one, how to evaluate it free, and all over tasks as well. So it's just 70 points. Create orders table and integrate in order model. 20 points. Too much, I think. Okay, okay. So in this case, actually, it's fair enough. I think we may leave it as it is, but just get rid of this one. Just create order table and integrate with order model. Too much, too much. Okay, I will try to split these 20 points across of this part of tasks, I think, or of this task, I mean, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, and unfortunately, the next part is containerization, and we would face the same application. And it looks like we would have the same issue with this one. Okay, but we'll think about it on the next week. So I hope everything is clear enough. Is there is a question? Maybe share screen from AWS console of Lambda for 8.1. What was in the 8.1? Because if I remember, we can just um, sorry, I mean, but we just deployed it. Hmm. I just think it's not necessary because all of the code would be provided inside the pull request. So in this case, it just doesn't make any sense. Hmm. Okay, I will think about it, and till the end of the day, I will provide you with all the criteria and all of the points you may allocate depending on the task's part. So once again, I think everything is clear for you right now about the RDS and the Lambda function approach, where we are hosting full application inside of the Lambda function, which is usually, yeah, it's as it even said inside the task itself. So it's not the best practice. So try to get rid of this one. And actually, at the next week, could create it a bit more properly. We'll try to wrap all this application inside the Docker container and run it inside the Beanstalk, AWS Beanstalk. But it would be it would be the topic for the next week. And actually, as we move this task for 1 week, I think we would respectively move all of the recent tasks, so task number 9 and number 10, for the 1 week further. And right now, I encourage you not to spend so many time on this application. We would try to fix it, and on the next for the upcoming students, unfortunately not for you, but for the upcoming students, it would work. I hope it would work a bit more easier, and yeah, because right now it just it looks like just a mess. Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, let's call it a day. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them inside the Discord channel. And today, and today, I would share the idea on how can we evaluate this task and on what should we take a look at, what should we do, and what would be the definition of done for this one. Okay, No more questions. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, patience. Sorry for this task to be a bit hard. We would make it better for sure with your help, with your feedback, and see you on the next week. I think, yeah, probably would be next week. Thank you so much, and bye. See ya.